So I kind of did an interesting experiment. It's either interesting or it's not interesting to you at all. Pretty much what I did was I took photos on my iPhone 13 and I took photos on my iPhone 6s. However, this time around on my iPhone 6s, I actually just went ahead and edited up the photos. Now, how I edited them, it wasn't anything crazy. As you can see, I took these photos yesterday, and pretty much what I did was I went ahead and took the same photos on both, as you guys can see, but on my iPhone 6s, I literally just went and on the stock Photos app, I didn't download any other photo app or anything like that. I clicked on Edit, I clicked the automatic editing button right here, which pretty much just adds a little bit of editing here and there. And I went ahead and I pretty much spent like another 5 to 10 seconds to increase the exposure and probably decrease the black point a little bit right here. And that was it. I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't hire an editor. As you can see, here's the profile right here. I did this for every single one of these photos. And I pretty much wanted to see which one looked better. And the results may actually shock you. You may want to call your doctor because it's pretty crazy. However, I will tell you, no matter what I say in this whole entire video, because I already did the video, the iPhone 13 camera is the better overall camera for sure. The photo quality is one thing. If I were to edit the iPhone 13 photo, it will look much better. I can guarantee you that. You're also getting bigger sensors, more video resolutions you can film in, cinematic mode, portrait mode, everything like that on the iPhone 13. The 6S doesn't have it, so keep that in mind. But it is still very interesting to see what 10 to 15 seconds of editing can do to a photo. It's pretty crazy. I'm not a photo editor. I make a lot of videos, but I'm not like a professional photographer or professional videographer at all. I just have a camera, that's it. So without further ado, here's that video, I guess. All right, everyone, let's go and get into these photos. Now, the iPhone 13 photos are on the left. The edited iPhone 6s photos are on the right. And funny enough, I actually filmed this whole entire video, but I actually wasn't recording the audio. So now I get to do it again a day later. Now, I do want to tell you for sure, without a doubt, the iPhone 13 photos, if I were to edit them, they would look a lot better. But because the iPhone 6s, has that editing capability, I spent maybe like 7 to 15 seconds editing up these photos. It didn't take too much time. I didn't hire a photographer to do any of this stuff. I just literally, as you saw in the video before, I did it. And within this first photo, I automatically saw so many similarities. Like, there's a little bit of a difference, I think, in the bokeh effect. So the blurring in the background, it definitely looks a lot better, I think, on the 13. But I didn't edit the bokeh, I just edited the colors. And the iPhone 6s did a really good job, I thought. Now, on the bottom, I can definitely see that the 13 did a better job at kind of darkening out these colors. And the edited iPhone 6s photo looks very good. Like, I think it looks better than the 13 photo in some areas. Now, I don't want to overhype it. I kind of felt yesterday I overhyped it up a little bit too. So I want to be completely honest. If I edited the 13 photos, it would look better. And the 13 definitely has way more capability. You're getting 4K 60, the more sensors and everything. This is just a photo comparison. Now, I am noticing in some cases that the 13 does have a little bit less noise, which is kind of nice. I didn't denoise these photos, but definitely when I look at all these photos right here, after like 7 to 13, 15, whatever I said, seconds of editing, there's not that many differences. Like, the 13 looks good, but the 6S kind of looks a little bit better. And this was just the first photo. Now, the second one, nothing crazy. You can tell there's some similarity, a little bit of a different aspect ratio of, photo taken here. But in my opinion, it does look like there are a lot of similarities. Now, with the 13, I definitely do tell that these colors down here look a little bit better. I think it looks a little bit less noised out on the iPhone 13 as well. Now, with the 6S, I can definitely tell that the AirPods case looks a little bit better. Now, we've been hearing this kind of thing where it's like, oh, a brighter photo makes the photo look better. And that is almost always the case, which is kind of sad to say. And with this case, I can definitely tell that the 6S, I think, looks a little bit better. But when you look at the background, that's when you start to tell some things. The iPhone 6S photo, it kind of looks a little bit more noisy. The background looks much more blurred out on the iPhone 13. Now, if I wanted to, I could have probably downloaded an app that could allow me to blur my, iPhone 6S photos out a little bit. I didn't do it this time around, but definitely these two look really good still. Maybe the 6S looks a little bit better. Now, this next photo took in horrible lighting, like some really, really bad lighting, as you guys can tell. And I was shocked to see that the iPhone 13 photo actually doesn't look as good as the edited 6S photo. And another thing that really kind of surprised me, which I didn't even think about, was when I zoomed into the background, there was noticeable more noise a little bit on the iPhone 13 photo than on the iPhone 6S photo. So this was another really interesting thing. Now, if I edited the 13 photo, it would look a lot better. But after a little bit of editing, it's pretty interesting to see what you can do. Now, if I were you, like, just looking at both these photos, which one would you have assumed to be the iPhone 13 photo? even if you knew that the 13 photo was a little bit better, it would still be kind of hard to tell. You'd kind of have to go back and forth because the iPhone 6s just brightening up that photo a little bit adds a little bit more, just character to that device, which is really, really interesting. Now, this next photo I took outside. Now, again, I want to ask you the same exact thing. If you didn't know which photo was which, like if you didn't know this one was a 13, this is a 6S, which one would you have thought to have been the 13? Now, personally, I don't think I would have been able to tell. I would have probably thought that this one was probably the 13 photo. You can tell even from here that the 13 does have more bokeh effect. It does have a little bit more, blurring capability, which is really hard to tell unless you really are looking at it. Now with the 6S, I am getting pretty much like Samsung Galaxy type of vibe from that type of edited photo. Those type of photos are usually a little bit more saturated. In this specific case, I can definitely tell you the iPhone 6S photo does look a little bit better, which is really surprising. Now, if I make my way over to this little portion here, which I did yesterday, but you guys won't see that video because it didn't even record the audio, you can see, again, I mean, there's some little differences in the color in the background, but I don't know. You guys tell me, which one would you have thought to have been the older photo? Now, if you look here, a little bit of an interesting thing, a little bit more grain going on in this specific photo. So there's a little bit more noise again that we kind of saw with the 6S, but still very interesting to see that there's so much overlap between these two photos. Now this next photo was nothing crazy. I guess I kind of didn't center this one, but again, you can kind of tell that after editing up this photo a little bit, it looks a little bit more sharper, a little bit more darker, which I kind of do like. With the iPhone 13, I think this photo looks great too. And I actually don't know if one, it looks way better. I like the darkened aspect of this specific photo. But again, if I were to look at this specific portion down here, if I were to look at this specific portion, it's very interesting because it does look a little bit more sharpened out on the iPhone 6s. I don't think anybody's going to be zooming in this much, but it is very interesting how a little bit of editing for a phone that is over 6 years old at this point, turning on 7 next year, is pretty crazy how good that photo is still, which is so insane. Now this next photo was very hard because the thing kept moving and I did have to edit up this photo for about like 20 to 30 seconds. So this was the longest photo I had to edit on the 6S just because the colors were all over the place. And this is what I'll tell you. This is where it's so apparent of the capability behind the iPhone 13 camera. You look at the background, it is much more blurred out on the iPhone 13 than on the iPhone 6S. And these are on the stock iPhone app as well. I didn't go and edit it, or take it in Instagram or something. I took it within the stock iPhone app. And I think everything else about the 6S photo looks really good. It took me quite a bit of time to edit it, like I mentioned, on the iPhone 6S, but both of them look good. I would probably say if I had to choose one, I would probably choose the iPhone 6S photo just because this photo looks a lot better. Even if I zoom into like this little portion down here and I zoom into this little portion, you would just assume that the iPhone 6S photo is that higher quality one just because of the color accuracy, but also like the least amount of grain. There seems to be more noise on the iPhone 13 photo, and this is a photo taken outside too, which is pretty crazy. So again, the 6S photo was edited, the iPhone 13 not so much. Now this last photo was another very apparent photo. This is of that Xbox One controller, and you can tell, which one would you have assumed to be that newer camera? You would have assumed that the iPhone 6S was that newer camera, the one on the right, just because it's a brighter photo. That really is what it comes down to. On that photo, I did edit up a little bit more, I decreased the black point and stuff, but it is very interesting. I'm surprised just looking at it, like, I just can't even believe it. I never thought to myself, even though I've, done so many photo comparisons and everything, I never thought there would be this big of a difference between these two photos, just an edited one and a non-edited one. And I'm not a photographer, I'm not a videographer, I'm making videos on YouTube and then that is it. I'm not somebody who knows a lot about like the photography aspect behind these things. So even if somebody like me who can just go into the Photos app and get this pretty decent result, most of it from the automatic tab, is pretty interesting to me. And there is still some, differences for sure. I'm noticing a little bit more noise, I think, in some areas on the iPhone 6S photo. But for a non-edited photo on the 13, it doesn't look bad. But really, when you're looking at them side by side, you are definitely getting a much better camera. You are definitely getting a much better photo from an edited iPhone 6S photo in some cases. But I do want to tell you, like I mentioned, the iPhone 13 photo is just one area where that phone excels in. You also have to consider the 4K 60 on the front and the back. You also have to consider the additional ultra-wide sensor. And you have to consider that that's a much better lens with much more capability. So when it comes down to it, the iPhone 6S surprised me like crazy yesterday, and it surprised me again, and I'm looking at the same photos. But I definitely still want to say the 13 is the better camera. If you know what you're doing and you're editing your photos, then the 6S, I guess will still be okay for some people. But the 13 is still a very good camera. I'd recommend that. But the 6S completely surprised me for sure. So in terms of that, that pretty much covers it up. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.